Hello from quarantine, everyone. Welcome to the first of our web series entitled Coping in Quarantine, Ways of Managing Your Mental Health During the Coronavirus Pandemic. My name is Natalie Beck. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with ChildLink in Chicago, Illinois. ChildLink is a community-based nonprofit that provides individual, couples, and family therapy. And due to the recent coronavirus and subsequent quarantine, we are offering these services online through telehealth. So if you or anyone you know is interested in therapy services right now, please feel free to reach us at the contact information linked below. Or if you're just here to hear more ways of promoting positive mental health, let's get started with 10 ways that you can promote positive mental health while in quarantine. So the first tip on our list today is to make sure that you are following a set schedule and routine throughout the quarantine. One of the reasons that we suggest that is because when you're going through a period in time where there's a lot of changes or disruptions to your normal daily life, it can be very disorienting and it can cause a lot of dysregulation if you feel like each day is chaotic and unproductive. One way of managing that is to make sure that your set routine and schedule are as similar to your old schedule and routine as it was prior to the quarantine. So ways that you can help do this is to make sure that you're getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, following similar hygiene schedules, and making sure that you're taking care of yourself. This will also help kind of get you out of that funk that we've had a lot of people reporting where they have a hard time keeping track of the days or feeling like days are running together. The second thing on our list is to make sure that you create designated areas in your home that are specific to the function you want them to provide. So what we mean by that is your brain creates associations and will cue you in to certain trends that it's used to. So for example, when you wake up in the morning on a work weekday and you know that you have to get up and eat your breakfast and then get in the car and go on a 30-minute commute, and then you walk into your office and you sit down at your desk and you check your emails, you've created a set schedule and structure and series of associations that all cue your brain up for becoming productive and doing what you need to do while at work. Unfortunately, when you're at home, you don't have that same set of associations. So your brain is not necessarily queuing itself up in the same way that it would when you do your normal routine. So it's important to not only create a routine while you're at home, but also create designated areas that can cause associations in your brain for what that space is for. The 4 spaces that are most important to have in a home, especially if you're working from home, is to have an area for work where you can be productive, an area for relaxing and socializing, especially with family members, an area for eating, and an area for sleeping. Now, these last 2 lead us to points 3 and 4 that we're about to get into now, which is it's important to manage a sleep schedule, and it's also important to take care of your eating habits. So number 3 is making sure that you're taking care of your sleep hygiene. And this is a really common concern that we've heard from a lot of people since the quarantine has started, which is that their sleep schedules are often getting really disrupted. People are staying up later than they normally would, waking up later, having more difficulty falling asleep, having anxiety around falling asleep, having disrupted sleep, having dreams or nightmares that are causing them to wake up in the middle of the night and have difficulty going back to sleep. And so right away, if any of you have ever been in therapy before and you've had issues with sleep, what therapists will typically tell you is to make sure that you get into a really good sleep routine. So making those associations with your brain and creating a space where you can have it designated solely for sleep. So things like having essential oils that cause an association of a certain smell, like lavender or chamomile, are good cues for your brain. Having certain schedules where you brush your teeth and then you wash your face and then you put on your pajamas and then you go to bed, typically around the same time. Those are all things that are going to help adjust into sleep. But in addition to that, if you have a lot of distractions in your sleeping space, let's say that you're working from home and you have your laptop open or you have a TV in your room, those are all things that are going to make it really difficult to get good quality productive sleep because there's too many distractions and your brain doesn't know what to do with that space. So it's really important to make sure that you're making sure to maintain that good sleep hygiene and to maintain good associations, designated space, and a good sleep schedule. Number 4 on our list is related to food. Now, if any of you have been on social media, especially on Facebook or Instagram, I'm sure you've seen all of the memes out there about overeating or eating all of your quarantine snacks in 2 days. Been there, done that. And one of the trends that we've noticed is that people seem to be overeating either out of boredom, out of self-soothing for some symptoms they're experiencing, such as anxiety or depression, or as just a response to over purchasing, which leads to overeating. So one thing that we're recommending is to make sure that you're meal planning, and it doesn't have to be anything intense, especially if you've had any history of disordered eating or eating disorders or obsessive compulsive. This may not be for you. You may already be just fine, but for someone who has a much more disrupted eating habit schedule, or who has just a different eating schedule in general, it's a good idea to think ahead of time about the type of meals that you want to be eating, when you want to be eating them, and try to keep this consistent. This is not only going to be good for your daily routine, but this is also going to make sure that you're getting a nice steady flow of all of the nutrients that you need to keep your brain functioning properly and to help keep mental health symptoms at bay. There are numerous studies that show that your nutrition can negatively impact your mental health, and that positive nutrition can have a positive effect on symptoms. So if you're looking for just a moderate way of eating, just think about making sure that you're eating fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables, getting proteins, and making sure that there's balance. Number 5, make sure that you're maintaining physical activity as you would prior to the quarantine. One thing that we have also found is that, especially among people who are more depressed than they were prior to the quarantine beginning, is that there was much more physical activity. Even if you weren't necessarily training for a marathon or a bodybuilder, a lot of times when you're moving between places or you're constantly on the go, there's a lot more movement in your day and there's a lot more activity. And when you go from a pretty active day to not moving a lot or moving just between rooms in your home, not only are you going to feel less energized throughout your day because you're not engaging your body as much, but you're also going to have a negative impact on your mental health. Physical activity has been shown to promote positive sense of self. It's also been helpful in managing anxiety, depression, other mood disorders, and can also help with substance use issues as well. It can be very good for self-soothing, and it can also be good for managing sleep patterns as well. So one thing that you can do very easily is just to increase your physical activity, even if it's something small, taking a walk around your block, to take your dog out for a walk, doing a couple sit-ups while you're watching TV, using that exercise bike that's usually used for laundry. Just anything that you can do to get up and moving to promote that good, positive brain chemistry. Number 6, for many of you out there, Facebook, Instagram, other forms of social media have been really helpful in passing the time, keeping you connected with family members, giving you updates about the virus and what's been going on. It's also had a lot of really great content of people doing concerts and shows and making videos and, connecting with others, offering tips, advice, things to do, lots of craft videos. If you're one of those people who gets on social media and you feel like you're connected with family members and you're connected with others and it's a great way for you to be distracted, this point is not for you. Skip on to number 7. However, if you are one of the many people who has found that Facebook or Instagram or any other social media platform usually leads to you feeling more intense symptoms of depression or more increased social isolation, you're not alone. There have been numerous mental health studies that have shown that Facebook can increase a person's sense of social isolation, especially if you are in a habit of using social media as a way of comparing yourself to others. Typically, when you get into this mindset, there is a direct correlation between jealousy and envy on social media and feelings of depression, where as soon as you start to feel that envy, the next gradual step is to start to feel bad about yourself and your life. As a way of mitigating that, try to limit your time on social media on those platforms that you notice you start to feel a little bit down afterwards, or try to manage the time that you spend either browsing through your newsfeed, if that's where you get feelings of inadequacy, feelings of jealousy, feelings of feeling like you're not measuring up, or just feeling bad about yourself. Stick to platforms that make you feel good and connected. stick to platforms that are not necessarily based on comparison or on competition. Those are typically going to be the interactions where you're going to feel much more negative symptoms afterwards and are going to feel much less connected to others. Piggybacking right off of number 6, we have number 7, which is to increase your positive social contact with others while still respecting social distancing. So while we have had an increase in reports that social media has led to feelings of depression or feelings of inadequacy, what we've also seen is that social media and other social platforms have provided people a way of really connecting with others and sharing creativity and sharing experiences and remembering memories together, and really forming bonds that are helpful during times like this. One of the major determining factors between whether or not social media is going to be helpful for you or harmful is whether or not you're actually investing in real relationships. So while there have been plenty of studies that show that the number of followers you have or the number of fans you have or the number of likes you get on posts is not necessarily going to correlate with an increase in happiness, what we have found is that when people use social media to form and deepen relationships with actual people that they have real relationships with, rather than these virtual phantom relationships, it can actually be very positive for one's mental health. So when you're about to engage in social media, think about, is this going to make me feel better about myself or worse? Is this actually a real relationship that I'm deepening and improving? Is this an old family member I haven't heard from? Is this an old colleague I haven't connected with? Or is this just me feeling inadequate and comparing myself to different social groups? So it's really important while you're isolated like this to think about and be mindful of the choices that you make in your social interactions with one another. Number 8. This is a really great time while you're in quarantine to start utilizing effective coping strategies and to figure out what coping skills are best for you. And the way to do that is to use your coping skills every single day. I used to work in a rehab facility for substance abuse, and one of the things that I would always say to people that would come in for treatment is that coping skills are not going to be helpful for you if you only use them when you're at that point of distress. If you're already upset, if you're already irritated, if you're already angry with your family members or irritated with your roommates or at a point where your anxiety is really overwhelming, that's not going to be a time when your coping skills are going to be most effective. Your coping skills are going to be most effective when they're helping you maintain a baseline level of mental health. So if you have certain skills that you know are helpful for you, or you know that you have certain coping skills that are helpful for you, utilize them every day. If you don't have coping skills that are effective for you, this is a really great time to start trying out different coping skills while you have the time and, unfortunately, the coping opportunities to start utilizing different tactics. Number 9, try to practice skill building hobbies or other activities that promote a sense of mastery and control. Typically, people like to utilize coping skills or distraction techniques that help them distract from whatever distress they're experiencing or whatever is uncomfortable in the moment. Watching TV is often a nice distraction or relaxation technique that people like to utilize at the end of a long day, especially if you've had a long commute or a long day. And you've had a lot going on. It's nice to just sit back, relax, turn your mind off, and enjoy the show. However, in quarantine, it can be very easy to get kind of stuck in this feeling where the days start to run together a little bit and you're not necessarily being as productive and time seems to be a little foggy. During periods like this, things like TV may not necessarily be as helpful as other skills such as learning a new skill, learning a new hobby, developing skills or hobbies that you already have. Things like gardening or learning how to knit or learning a new language or getting better at chess or whatever interest you have in something that you can slowly accumulate a skill set around, or something that can give you a sense of progress or mastery, are going to be much more effective in helping you feel like you passed time but didn't lose time, and make you feel like there's something to look forward to the next day. Those are all going to be skills that are going to be much more effective than just merely distraction techniques that are helping you pass the time. And finally, number 10, be proactive in your communication, especially with those you live with, about your expectations of them and your needs from them. So one of the most common things that we've been hearing lately from others in regard to those they live with or their social connections is they should have known that I wanted a phone call, or they should have known that I was needing some space and I was feeling overwhelmed, or they should have known I was feeling isolated and that I needed more social contact. Maybe under normal circumstances, you have family members who are good at reading your body language and knowing your expectations. But during periods like this, when there's increased stress, it's much more difficult for people to be perceptive of others' needs when they're dealing with their own needs. So give family members a break. Give your friends a little bit of a pass. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm feeling really isolated right now. I really need a phone call. Or, hey, can we please set up a time to chat by Zoom? I don't like that I haven't had a conversation about this, or this. Or, hey, I'm really feeling overwhelmed right now. I have a lot of responsibilities at home and at work. Can you just give me 30 minutes to go decompress and just relax? It's okay to have expectations of others. It's okay to say what you need. There's nothing wrong with saying, I need this, or this. It doesn't necessarily mean people can give that to you, but it's a step in the right direction and helping to establish where the other person is in the relationship and also establish what each person in the family is needing in that moment. Also, for couples out there, know that one of the most common fights that couples can have are either related to money or chores. As you can guess, quarantine is really highlighting those things. So if you find yourself fighting a lot about money and chores, give yourself a little bit of a break. It's common to have those concerns, and it's also common to struggle with that. So be communicative, but also understanding of one another. One final thing that I would like to note is that this list of 10 things that you can do to promote positive mental health while in quarantine is going to be most effective for you when it's done consistently and when it's done cumulatively. And the best way to illustrate that is just to compare someone who followed everything on the list and has been consistent in maintaining a routine and a schedule, making sure they're getting enough sleep, getting proper nutrition and having regular meal times, avoiding social media that is negative for them, promoting positive social contact, getting some exercise and activity in their day, practicing healthy coping skills on a normal basis, setting healthy boundaries and expectations with others, and trying to create a sense of mastery and control within their day and a sense of productivity. Compare that person to someone who got 2 hours of sleep and has a really disrupted sleep schedule, is eating mostly quarantine snacks instead of healthy meals, is not showering or taking care of themselves, is wearing dirty clothes or not changing their clothes every day, isn't maintaining a consistent routine, is not feeling productive at work, or isn't really doing anything that's productive during their day to give them a sense of mastery and control. They're not setting healthy boundaries with their family members. They're not really practicing any coping skills, and they're just passing time. Now, who do you think is going to be better equipped to manage unexpected stress or anxiety or bad news? The person who's been maintaining their mental health all along. Now, it's not going to completely alleviate any distress or any anxiety, but these are tips that are going to help you manage your mental health and maintain your mental health so that it's easier to have more of a reservoir for when things go wrong, or when you just have rough days, or when you start to get a little bit of cabin fever. So just keep that in mind as you go about the tips. And again, if you have any questions with implementation, or if you have any concerns about any of these questions or recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us or comment below. That concludes our video, 10 ways of promoting positive mental health while in quarantine. If you have any comments or questions for us about this video, please feel free to comment below. Like and follow our Facebook and Instagram pages if you'd like more updates or videos from this series. And as always, if you or anyone you know is experiencing any mental health concerns, or if you would like more information about our telehealth therapy services, please feel free to reach out to us by phone, email, or website, which are all below. And as they're saying in Italy right now, andrà tutto bene. Everything will be okay. Stay safe out there.